Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome to Utility Jane. I have a busy week ahead, so I am going to start prepping a few things so the rest of the week is a little easier. We have a range of different things and it just means I add a few things to them and I have a meal. So we're going to start with getting some water on to cook some rice, and I am going to get mince in my pressure cooker. I find this an easy way to get mince cooked, and then I can decide what I'm going to do with it. It's such an easy way to prep it. I can put it in bags in the freezer. I can have it in the fridge for a couple of days and decide to make spaghetti sauce out of it or make a pie. It's just an endless amount of ideas, and I just love doing this. I do this with a beef chunk steak. I do this with mince. It's fantastic. Okay, so I've got it in the pan, it's heating up, I've got olive oil in it and just a few basic seasonings, and that way I can use it whichever way I want later on, like, you know, chilies, curries. It's an endless amount of ideas. So I just put my basics, which is salt, seasoned salt, pepper, sugar, some sweet paprika, which goes in everything, and some olive oil, and get that simmering. I like to brown it off a little bit, break up the chunks so it is an even mince once it's cooked. I have my water boiling with the rice in it. Add a little bit of water to the pressure cooker. I do my groceries online, and if they arrive and they're all due on the same date. I mean, my freezer is only small, so it's easier to cook and put it in the freezer than it is to put the package in the freezer. So I find this wins every time. Saves me time, saves room in my freezer. It's slowly browning. There is a lot of meat here. The rice is cooking. It's slowly browning off. Now I'm going to put a bottle of passata in it because I know I'm wanting to have spaghetti and do a pie. We are Australian, so we have sauce on our meat pies. So a little bit in the sauce is neither here nor there. Just adds a depth of flavor. I'll get that mixed through. There's plenty of liquid in there. I added some extra water. I get my lid on and bring that up to a boiling point, and then I'm going to move it across so it's out of the way so I can work with my main burner that's down there, and I'm not reaching across burners. I've got my mixer out and I am going to make some pastry because, like I said, I wanted to make a meat pie. Give my rice a stir, cooking, and I've checked it and I've realized, no, it's time to come off, off the boil. Rice can be a disaster. Okay, so we've got some gluten-free self-raising flour. I have got butter, some salt, some yogurt, some cheese, and some apple cider vinegar. I've got, I think that was 2.5 cups of gluten-free self-raising flour. I've got some salt. I love to add yogurt to the pastry. It just gives it such a subtle, fluffy texture. It's just beautiful. I don't measure it. It's just spoonfuls. Some grated cheese, and you can leave the grated cheese out. You don't have to add it. Apple cider vinegar, and then I'll mix it into a crumb what you would normally do with your hands if you're making a biscuit. We add some butter. I'm going to pre-soften it because this just come out of the fridge. Pre-soften it in the microwave. Just going to cube it up and get that into a bowl so I can pre-soften it and I can quickly get on with the dough and I'm not waiting. And here it is. So get the mixer going and I'm going to slowly add the softened chunks of butter. Leave those last few and just see how it comes together, and if it needs more I can always add it. But it seems to have come together really fine. It's looking beautiful and rich and buttery, and yeah, see, I had just a few chunks of butter left. Now we're going to get this off, and oh, it just feels, the dough feels very, very nice, light and airy. Just going to get that all out of the bowl. Don't waste any. It's got some beautiful ingredients in it, so don't want to waste any. Just gonna combine it a little more, roll it out, and then fold it back on top of itself because the mixer can only do so much. I find that this just brings it together, ready for it to be rolled out. Now this is enough to do 2 pie tops, so I'm only going to use half of this, and half can sit in the fridge for later on in the week. Wrap that up and it can rest until I am ready to use it when my mince is ready. I'm going to quickly get on and get my dishes washed. I find that this is really helpful when you are doing a big prep morning or afternoon or day, just keeping on top of the dishes. You can put the basics in the dishwasher, which I have, but doing these other things, it helps. Okay, so I'm going to do a chickpea curry rice to have with lamb chops. So I'm going to get some carrots chopped, some sweet potato, some capsicum. I've got some frozen peas and corn and some red cabbage that I had chopped up and froze in bags. So I've got that out of the freezer. I'm going to add that. And I have a tin of chickpeas, which I've drained and rinsed. I love to have lots of different colors when I'm cooking vegetables. I feel if I have just 2 colors of vegetables that there's just not enough vegetables. So I tend to have a lot. Okay, so we've got the pot on. I have got the sweet potato and the capsicum in the pot and the carrots. Now I am chopping up an onion. We'll get that in the pot and get those coated with oil. And let's add some flavorings. So my go-to seasoned salt and pepper. I've got sweet paprika, which is an always, and some curry powder, some salt, a little bit of sugar, just just to balance out the flavors. And there's the curry powder. We get those mixed up and browning on the vegetables. This is how I love to do it. And I'm going to add the peas and the corn and the cabbage. And then I like to put in, just making sure there's plenty of oil there because there is a lot of vegetables, and get the chickpeas in. I get my rice ready, and then the rest can go in the fridge. Tossing those, we just got to cook the vegetables enough so that it's not overcooked, because I find that when you have vegetables in rice that they sort of have to be a little crunchier, so it's more like a rice salad. Put the lid on and get them cooking. Now, while that is happening, I am going to make our almond milk for the week. I do this every week. I make almond milk. It is just something that gets done, and it really is quite fast. I've been making it for years, and I don't like the almond milk you buy. I prefer to have my own. I have almonds, and I often put Brazil nuts in it, which is a great source of other vitamins and minerals. Makes for a beautiful almond milk. So I quickly do this while the veggies are cooking. I have the blender going, or the Vitamix going. I wash some bottles. I always make sure they're washed anyway, but when I get them out, I re-wash them just to make sure that they are clean, because I do not want my almond milk going sour. I'm going to add the rice to the vegetables, just coating it in there. Now I'm going to get this almond milk made. The meat is on the stove and cooking. It really takes no time to make a nut milk. I'm going to taste this rice and see if it needs any extra flavorings, and then I'm going to put it in a pan to cool off, because I do not want it over cooking and going gluggy. So just get this really quickly made, and then it's out of the way and I can move on to the next thing on my list. I'm always happy when I have 4 bottles of freshly made almond milk in the fridge. And then with the leftover blended almonds, I put them in a pan and I dry them in the oven on a slow oven. And that is what I use for almond flour. I get them out, it's sort of clumpy when it's dried then. And then I run them through the Vitamix again and make flour. Here it is, I'm putting them in this pan. And then nothing is wasted. I often add this to anything I'm baking. Now I'm going to get a batch of my granola or muesli on, and I've got pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, some coconut, some linseeds, that's my almond flour there. Get that all mixed up. I'm going to chop up some pecans. I mean, this can be a mix of anything. Now, because I'm so preoccupied, I actually get this all together and forget to put in the rolled oats. So I put them in halfway through the process, but it really doesn't matter. They were absolutely fine and we ate it. The meat is done. I am going to wait for that to cool off, to bring down pressure. I am going to get my pan on and hot and add some oil and get these lamb chops. And this was very speedy. I was scared. I was jumping away. I went and put an apron on. But these cook so fast, and within, minutes they were done. There were different thicknesses, so I was getting the thin ones out, or the thin one out first, gave the rest a little bit more time because they're going into a lunchbox. I want them cooked through, and now they're finished. So fast, and my husband enjoyed them. He does love them. There we go. Now, I've got the rice. I'm going to plate this up and just show you what it looks like. He was out, and when he came home and I had finished this, he ate it straight away. Now I'm going to get this all cleaned up because that fat spat everywhere, and I want to keep on top of my stove. If it gets out of control, it's always such a nightmare to clean. So here we go. Here's the mince, all done. It is piping hot. Now I'm going to put some in a pan to make a meat pie. That way we have a meat pie in the fridge. All I have to do is steam up some veg to go with it, or make a salad. Makes for an easy dinner or a lunch. Now I'm going to make up a little bit of a slurry to thicken it up, and I've just got some flour, which just self-raising flour, gluten-free self-raising flour. Put in a mug. I've got some of my dried parsley I dried last year. I've got some pepper. I want a bit of seasonings in it, otherwise it draws it straight out of whatever you have in the sauce. So you need to add more to the slurry. And we'll add a little bit of water. Get that whisked up. I always like to use this little whisk, and it in a cup, and it mixes it so fast. You don't have any clumps in your flour mix, and then it goes into the pot and mixes through really easy. I don't tend to put flour straight in the pot. I'd rather do it this way, and then I can season accordingly and there are no lumps. So I like to do it this way. Get that sauce heated through and put the slurry in. Now we need to mix straight away, because it does, once it hits the heat, it starts to thicken straight away. So don't leave any time in between putting, getting that slurry into your mix, whether it be a meat pie, chicken pie, vegetable pie. Get it mixed up straight away so you don't have thicker parts of gravy in your mix. That has come together beautifully. Just make sure that flour mix is cooked out and the flavors have gone through. Let that simmer there for a minute. Now I have this. I have the pastry top. That is a pie practically done. I just need to put it in the oven. I'm going to taste test it first though and just make sure. I'd rather be light on with the salt until the end and then just add that in. Salt and pepper, usually how I find it is the best way. A bit more salt. Here is the muesli or granola. I just get it out and move it around so it browns all the way through. It dries out. In the meantime, I did not show this, but I added maple syrup and olive oil. I had a lot going on this day, so there were a few things that I did miss, and I apologize. But yes, I did add just maple syrup and olive oil. I will make this again just so you can see the recipes and how I would normally make it. But here's the rolled oats going in, and they will just be a bit less toasted, but it was fine, like I said, and I don't tend to get all worried because it didn't go in or cook for the same amount of time. It just, everything works out fine. Get that back in the oven. And here is my almond flour drying out. They are both in there together. It feels quite dry, I think, and I've just got it out because I'm going to put the temperature up. With the almond, when I dry out the almond, I have to have that on low temp. The oven has to go up to put the pie in, so I need to get that out and get this pie ready to go in. I put the mix in a dish. Now I've got my pastry back out of the fridge. I'm going to get this rolled out roughly. I am not one to worry exactly how this looks. I'm more on the eating it side, as long as it tastes fine. I love pastry to be a bit sort of craggy on the edges, so you get those extra cooked pieces. This is about the right size, and get it rolled out. Like, as you can see, it is rolling out so good. A bit split on the ends, but it comes out to the edge and it ends up, they're the crunchy bits around the pie. They're like my favorite part. As always, getting it in the dish without it cracking. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Just going to press it around the sides so it doesn't bubble out too much. Put some holes in it, let out some steam. And there it is, done in this pretty little pot. Now I'm just going to put a bit of milk on it and get that into the oven. The granola, or the muesli as we call it, is out and it is cooled, and now I'm adding some just chopped dates. I love this in it. They're just sweeten it up enough. I used to put sultanas in it, but I tend not to do that now. I don't like the additives on a lot of dried fruits, so I just add some dates and leave it at that. I love this with yogurt. I love it with milk. I tend not to have it for breakfast. I have it as an afternoon snack, actually. I can come in and I'm just a little bit peckish and I will just have a bowl of that, or with some yogurt. This has turned out wonderful. Now I'm going to cut this. I wouldn't normally cut it, I'd let it cool a little bit, but I want to show you the pastry, how fluffy and delicious it looks. It is piping hot. There it is. It was delicious. A busy couple of hours, but it is going to make the world of difference during the week. Just having a few things that just need a bit extra work doing to them, but the basics, the time-consuming part is done. Thank you. Thank you if you've made it this far, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.